Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lightbringers podcast. Today we have a very special and amazing episode, of course, with Kroof, who is our regular on the podcast, as well as three names you may know, or you may not know, and you'll get to know a lot about them today. Kroof, how you doing? You good?
I'm doing absolutely wonderful. I woke up today, the sun hit my face, the vitamin D infused into my cells, and I'm happy. So that's all I can ask for. So thank you for having me. I feel really honored to be on this pod.
I always appreciate your very truthful and fulfilling words as we begin the podcast as the sun rays hit your face. We have CMC, Roy, and Trig, all from Arenanet, who just did a awesome live stream over on the Guild Wars 2 Twitch channel. They were talking about weapon proficiencies as well as the March balance patch, which comes out on March 19th.
Balance patch is March 19th.
Yes.
Whatever the Tuesday is that week.
Whatever the Tuesday is this week. Okay, we're just going to get everyone to kind of introduce themselves, tell us what they do at Arenanet, and also as you do that, I don't know if everyone noticed, but we do have different icons as well that each person used as part of their intro screen. And I was like, when I got these, I was like, okay, let's go with it. It's fine. But you get to all say why you maybe have the flame strike icon as your representative avatar.
Well, according to Twitch chat, apparently I'm the wolf, and CMC is the orichalcum ore, and Trig is the fire.
I'm the fire wizard.
So those are all completely wrong.
Unfortunate.
Well, someone's got the dog in them, so.
Yeah.
Okay, well let's start with Cal, because Cal's at the top. Yeah. Cal had flame strike as well, but tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name's Cal, or CMC. A lot of people know me by the lead skills and balance designer at Arenanet. So I do a lot of skills and balance changes. Flame strike icon. Unfortunately, Roy picked the icons for everyone today. I definitely wouldn't have gone with flame strike. Probably pick burning speed myself, or lightning whip. I have lightning whip on my forum account.
Why would you pick that?
I don't know. Burning speed is just a cool skill. You get to dash forward and then explode for damage.
Nice.
I don't know why I would pick flame strike though. But it is nice to be on a professional podcast here, since we deal with Roy so much running our streams internally.
It's okay.
No production issues here.
If there are screens or names or maybe slides that need to go into presentations, I'm your man. Don't worry. Okay, awesome. Roy, tell us about your icon? Also, what you do at Arena?
Besides be Cal's punching bag, I am a member of the competitive team. I mostly focus on designing content for World vs. World right now. At Arenanet. Also, my name is Roy. And my icon was not the wolf, nor was it flame strike, which is perfect for someone who loves fire wizard, as we know Cal does, and he just likes to complain. I don't know. But mine was the orichalcum ore, because it strongly represents me, as I love gathering nodes, and you get orichalcum ore from gathering nodes. It's one of the strongest and best gathering nodes in the game, so yeah, I wanted to use that one. Orichalcum's a cool word.
It's really good. That's really good. That's really yeah. I enjoy that. Just authentically Roy right there. Just very valuable and slightly orange. I don't know. Yeah, sure. I'm not sure. Orange? I don't know. I just made it up. Welcome, Roy, as well. Trig, last but certainly not least, same as well, please.
Yep, my name's Taylor. I am on the competitive team for Skills and Balance. I help Cal do the balance updates as well as make the new weapons. Pretty new on the team. I've almost been here for a year now. The new weapons coming out in a few weeks were my first project, so pretty happy to see that out the door. My icon was the Juvenile Wolf, because I am a Ranger main. Much hidden fact from everyone. And the Wolf was, my favorite. Like when I first played Ranger, it was like the best pet, and so I've always used it. And steadfast companion for the past 12 years. It's always the best. It is still the best pet, and that is why.
Pretty good. Okay, that was meaningful. That was very good, you see. There was a story behind it. It meant Roy's shaking his head like, how dare
Mine
you?
wasn't meaningful.
They went from Fire Wizard to nodes to my very first experience with the game, and
Yeah.
Nodes were my first
So good.
experience with Arenanet.
That's true. That's true.
Hey,
Oh, it
really?
was? Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's all I
okay.
did
Well,
for a
why
year.
didn't you say that then?
Because I thought it was just known. I don't know.
Oh, okay. No, it's not known. No, I didn't
Okay.
know that. I'm sorry. I retract my earlier statement. Very meaningful, lovely story, amazing. Okay, we're going to jump straight into it. Oh, like Kroof, tell us what you do, where you do it, because people might want to know about that as well.
hi, I'm Kroof. I do a lot of YouTube videos over on my YouTube at Kroof, mostly Guild Wars 2 focused, but sometimes other general MMOs. And I also stream here on Twitch. Once again, mostly Guild Wars 2, but sometimes other MMOs. And yeah, kind of, it's what I do. A little bit relaxed and, chill, memes every once in a while on Twitter. So I enjoy the
stuff.
internet quite a bit.
Awesome. Okay, and if you do want to watch the podcast live on Twitch TV/Jebro Unity, we're normally live about 1 p.m. Pacific on a Friday. You can also catch it on YouTube. It's youtube.com/Jebro Unity, as well as on anchor.fm/Jebro Unity as well. And you can just Google Lightbringers Podcast Guild Wars 2, and you'll find us on probably one of your favorite podcasting services, wherever you listen to the things, iTunes, Spotify, all the stuff. But yeah, we're going to pretty much get into it. We're mostly going to talk about the proficiencies. Balance patch stuff is very, very awesome as well, and that's coming very soon. And we might dip into a few different bits and pieces here and there as well. So we did the best question first, obviously, which was the avatar question. So really, podcast is going to go a bit downhill from now, but that's okay. So when you come up with these, when you have to sit down and you're like, actually, there might be a good question for you actually before this. You had the idea of, when do you come up with the idea of, do we kind of go with weapons, or are we going to go with elite specializations? Like, when did that all happen? Are you allowed to say anything about that? Like, when did that kind of occur? Or when was that kind of choice made? And why do you think that was more important to go with weapons over elite specializations? I know we know kind of a lot of this, but I think a lot of our kind of new players are wondering maybe why a weapon over elite specialization, for example.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact timeline of some point
Yeah, 7
during
p.m.
expansion planning. Yeah, this date at this time, we were all sitting in a meeting, and no. Realistically, there were a lot of reasons why we chose to do weapons instead of elite specs. I know that Josh Grouch, like our game director of Guild Wars 2, has talked about this a little bit, where it's like the design space for elite specs has kind of been fleshed out pretty well over the first 3 elite specializations that we made. So moving forward, we're trying to find ways to make things that are a little bit more flexible, something that's accessible to every elite specialization and the core profession. That's something that a new weapon is usable by all of those things, as opposed to a new elite spec is only usable by players that use that elite spec. So there's definitely a number of reasons, but those are a few of the primary ones, I would say.
Okay.
And on top of that, the decision to decouple the previous elite specialization weapons to be usable on all professions, which personally as a player, I have thoroughly enjoyed getting to mix and match it. So when it was leading up to the release of Secrets of the Obscure and that little hint of like, and there's another thing, I was like, it's gotta be something to do with the weapons. And I've had a really pleasant experience with that.
Yeah, I think trying to explore other sort of combat features besides just elite specs is also kind of just an interesting thing for the team to do. And just like decoupling the weapons from their elite specializations, allowing their core classes and other specializations to use them. It's just a different sort of flavor. Not necessarily they're not necessarily as big maybe as elite specs, but it's just a different sort of avenue to go there.
Yeah, the mace, when it was like a mace shield on like core NG or just like scrapper, I was just like, yes, I am here. I can use my shield. I can use my mace. I can be like a kind of engineer guardian now. And it was just, because I was like, what else am I going to use of it? It's like sword. I mean, I can't use sword either. So it's like, it was like pistol pretty much, right? Or just rocker shield, I guess, and not any main hand weapon, which would have been weird. And it makes sense with the new weapons as well, because you've obviously got like Staff Warrior. It's like do you add in like a whole support elite specialization when you probably already have a lot of the tools already in the lines? So it kind of doesn't make sense, right? Like, and also I think I probably can say, and most people will agree with me, that warrior staff is so fun. So fun. I don't play warrior.
I'm highly excited and anticipating the experience when it goes live.
And some of those changes as well in the balance notes.
Yeah, major.
So good. The targeted ability not being taken away, so you have more control over that being the specific one. I can't remember which ability that was, but that was pretty good.
I'm an ally target apologist, which we won't get too heavy into that, but I think it was a good change. So.
Yeah,
Good to hear.
Yeah, I think the big thing with weapon delinking and everything is that we already have 27 elite specializations in our game, and, you know, to add more is to make that number even bigger when there are ways that we can create new gameplay and, like, give people new experiences within those elite specs we already have. Like, a lot of the HOT elite specs are still, like, fan favorites and people want to play them, and so by giving, like, new weapons to them, they can still play Reaper, but just in a different way now. And I think that's, like, a pretty big win, is that, you know, people can still enjoy the things they have. They just get new toys to play with.
Excellent. Sorry, the intention wasn't to ban Guild Wars 2 from the show.
Jebro.
It was just an auto mod thing. It was a link thing. I'm sorry, whoever that was. You're welcome.
How
You're
dare.
not bad. You weren't banned. You were only timed out for a second. It's okay. We're gonna be fine. It's all
We need to
live.
leave?
No, not you. You're good. Wait, you were Guild Wars 2 just then? You represent?
No, but I mean, I've got it on my shirt. And
You do. That's a nice
Yeah.
hoodie. I
So
like
does
that.
Trig. Thank you. It is a very nice hoodie.
What's the material?
I don't know. I could take it off and look, but
No
you know, I
need.
would-
Probably COD.
Oh, we are
No,
mature
you're
rated
okay.
stream, but not probably
Is it
appropriate
cotton?
for you.
Mixed cotton polyester.
Am I
I
playing
mean, I'm
the
wearing a
music?
t-shirt underneath, so I wouldn't
Oh.
be naked.
Oh, okay.
Jebro. I've been on a stream before, you know.
Have you?
Yes.
Where can I find? Is this at Twitch TV/Roy__?
Could be.
2 underscores. One wasn't good enough.
One was taken.
One was taken. Yeah.
Ah, damn.
Okay.
Show your power. Double it up.
So when you've got all these when you've got these ideas for weapons, right? Where do you even begin with this? Because we've got all the classes. Of course, some classes don't have specific weapons, but where do you go in? How do you even decide that a weapon is most appropriate now, where we are in the game's life, dependent on what they've had before? How do you make those decisions? Like, what's the kind of process in that? I know that's kind of probably a really long-winded question and very vague, but it's just always interesting to know. Like, I mean, obviously it's like, well, this class has a support kind of weapon. Do we need to put another support weapon in there, for example? And it's like, well, engineer got short bow and it's a support weapon, but you could argue that so is also a shield and a mace. So it's like, yeah, just kind of interested about how you kind of make those decisions.
Yeah, obviously some of them are easier than others, like Mesmer, Warrior. Both don't really have any real support weapons, and we want them to be able to have support builds, so we make them support weapons. Other professions are a bit harder because there are a lot of weapons in the game already, so there is a lot of saturation especially for like elementalist, engineer, like the professions that don't have weapon swap, like they run out of options very quickly, whereas like a profession that can have, you know, a weapon and then swap to a different weapon, there's space for 2 power weapons to exist for that profession. But something like Ellie, then everything's already like kind of fighting with each other. So in some cases we do have like the easy low-hanging fruit of this archetype needs to exist and there is no weapon for it already. Easy, let's make that. And then other professions, sometimes we just try to make something, you know, we try to fit it in so that it's slightly different enough, and we like see this issue with like Ellie pistol, for example. It kind of overlaps with Scepter, and that's something that we're going to want to massage a little bit and probably shift Scepter a little bit more toward the power spectrum of things, so that pistol can exist as the primary Condi weapon. And then, you know, sometimes we kind of have inspiration from what should the mechanic be is also a starting point for some of the weapons. Like, oh, I really want to do something, you know, we're talking about like Ellie pistol. It's like, well, we could do something really cool with elemental bullets, and that kind of spawns like that very much influences the design moving forward.
So it seems to be fairly dependent on each profession and
Yeah,
what that profession needs.
As with most things in game design, there's no rules that dictate all of your decisions perfectly.
Yeah, I think ideally we wanted to we kind of mapped out all the niches a weapon would have, and then tried to see what holes a profession had, and then fill those holes. Because the last thing we really wanted to do was to introduce a new weapon that's just an old one but better. So you would never use that old one anymore. You just use the new one. We don't want to be trampling over those existing weapons that people like using. And so, like Cal said, it does get harder. And the more complicated thing is that weapons have different niches and different game modes, for example. Like Cal mentioned, Scepter and Pistol, where in PvE, Scepter is used as a Condi weapon, but in competitive game modes, it's basically just power. And so for PvE competitive game modes, they see the Pistol and they're like, okay, great, a main hand Condi option. But in the PvE, they're like, we already have that, why do we need this? And so that's where, kind of honing in the niches for the existing weapons is something we're going to be doing as well. And trying to create new ones. I think NG Shortbow, there was also another one where people are like, we have Mace Shield, why do we need a new one? But if you look over at Ellie, where they have both Staff, which we've been kind of pushing towards a support role, but they also have main hand Dagger, which with any offhand is a pretty good support option, where we've seen that maybe Dagger Focus has more defensive options, but not as high healing compared to Staff, where we think we can maybe mirror that over with NG, where Mace Shield has that strong defense, but Shortbow is the really long range, can have really good healing, and hopefully shines that way.
Good points. Yeah, like PvP, for example, people don't use Staff for support builds. They use, well, they actually kind of do, I guess, here and there, but they didn't back in the day, and there was Sally Ellie, but we won't talk about that. It's fine. It's fine. Kroof, really, really good answers, and really appreciate those as well. Is there anything else you wanted to add, or?
I mean, I did want to ask, because of the function of weapons, they are a solidified kit. It's nothing like utilities where there's a mix and match. So as developers and as designers, either conceptualizing or implementing these, do you find more comfort when you have that limited number of skills that you kind of have to hit based off of whatever weapon type it is, and you don't have to think about how it really is going to mix and match with the other utilities? So is that comforting to design for, or do you prefer something like utility skills where there's still that flexibility with that?
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing about building weapons is that you have a cohesive kit that you're designing, and it's a set number of skills. That's nice, but it's more that that all of these skills will always be equipped at the same time. Whereas utility skills, you're going to have mix and match depending on the build. So it's harder to, we have a bunch of utility skill types, but they don't necessarily interact with each other a whole lot. And there's traits that interact with them as opposed to having specific interactions between, utility skill X and utility skill Y, because they might not always be equipped. Whereas with a weapon, that when the player has the Elementalist Pistol, they will always have all of these skills equipped, so they can play off of each other much more easily. So, yeah, I think it's slightly easier, maybe not easier, but it's more fun to design because you have more room to play with.
Okay, awesome. Proof, do you want to ask the question below that you mentioned about weapons and utility skills and whatnot? You know which one I'm talking about?
Aside from, either the difficulty level, if you have experience with designing something like an elite specialization, what is the most satisfying element to work on? Would it be the weapon? Would it be conceptualizing the type of utility skill and those skills, or the trait lines themselves?
I think that might be a question for Cal.
Yeah,
only a
Sure.
question for Cal.
Might be a
I was gonna
specific.
throw it to Taylor, but
balancing
he
as
hasn't designed
well.
it
You're going to throw to each other, just throw each other on
I mean,
the bus.
I could make something up.
I could guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved making Herald. That was my favorite elite spec.
Oh, really?
None of us worked here when Harold was.
Well, the other Roy, I think, made that one. So
Yeah.
A. Roy did design.
We're all the same. They share the same memories.
But yeah, I think in terms of elite spec design, really the most fun part is coming up with the whole package, because elite spec goes to the next level. You have the weapon, you have the utilities, you have the profession mechanic update, which really dictates what is this specialization doing? Like, what makes this different from the core profession? And how are we going to change up the gameplay into something that's still awesome, but just as exciting? And then, like, the weapon is, like, right below that. I think, like, the whole, like, even, like, the narrative side of, like, what is an elite specialization is always cool. And, I mean, I never do a whole lot of that. I ask the narrative team, hey, help, I don't know anything about writing. Please give me some input here. But it is just like conceptualizing, like, what is this version of this profession doing different from these other versions of the profession is definitely the most fun part about it.
Nice. Roy or Trig, you have any anything you want to add to that?
This, I guess, also extends to the context of balancing, like, in general.
Yeah, I would have to agree with Cal that like the profession mechanic is probably usually the most interesting part of an elite spec. What's changed is everything up. Weapons are more, they change your moment to moment gameplay, but they're all like smaller impact, I guess. So I'd have to agree that like with elite specs you can go like crazy, right? You don't have to worry about how this plays like if you're another elite spec, basically. Like with new weapons, you have to be like, okay, this has to be usable on Tempest, Catalyst, and Weaver, or like ideally. But like when you're making a new elite spec, you don't care because you know it's not a constraint. So I would say new weapons have more constraints on them than making an elite spec, which makes it a bit harder to find, you know, the right spot because you have to take in a lot more things into consideration.
That's right, because we were noted on the podcast this. In recent episodes, it was kind of like almost some of these weapons have like a very specific theme around them anyway. So they were like mini elite specs, just like the maces on Ranger, for example. Like it kind of added a bit more to it. And even I would say maybe you could stretch that to engineer with the short bow as well, because that way of playing, like, have you introduced new tech with that as well? I'm not sure if it is. I mean, I guess technically it's kind of like blasting fields in a way, but like it feels really different when you're playing it. Like it doesn't feel like any other weapon you pick up. I mean, I played a lot of shortbow engineer, and I actually probably one of the few people that didn't mind it, like, you know, like in terms of like, you know, the pace of it, because I really liked planning those kind of, I guess not skill shots, but those combinations and stuff. Like I liked piling different things on each other, and then the combination, and then seeing it all kind of pop off. I get what you meant. You said during the live stream, you were talking about moment to moment gameplay. Like you want that consistency rather than ping 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 and then wait for a second and then like kind of blast all these fields. I get it. But yeah, I think I thought that with engineer as well. But yeah, anyway, we kind of had that conversation. It's very fun.
Yeah, I think with, you know, a lot of our weapons have like new mechanics to them. Like Ranger has like the stacking up thing, the engineer has how it can chain together. And I think the big part of this weapon set was we wanted to make them all feel special. Some of them aren't, you know, mechanically complex, like Warrior Staff and Mesmer Rifle aren't, you know, they don't have like a special thing added on top, but just the fact that they're support weapons in a class that doesn't have support itself gives like new gameplay avenues. And so for the weapons that weren't really new niches, we wanted to make sure that they themselves felt special and different from other weapons.
I'm excited to grow bigger, faster.
Yeah.
More frequently.
More frequently.
Yeah, more often.
I think everyone is.
If you're not, then I don't know.
It's the state of being I
talking
prefer
about.
to be in, so I salute the change.
I'm not going to go any further into this because we the Lightbringers broadcast is known to keep harping on things sometimes, and that could be just the entire podcast, but then that could be dangerous. Should we move on for that? And this is the question I think Criff came up with. But what are the easiest and hardest professions to design for? Do you think? Out of all of the ones where you picked, and maybe you could even think about it in terms of weapons this past. Cal's got a smile on his face. It's like he immediately knows.
Well, you know, because whatever you say is the hardest, everyone's going to get mad at you. But I mean, it's obviously Thief. It's not close.
Okay.
When it comes to like weapon design, because Thief has the initiative system, and like you have to work under the constraint that they can always press this button multiple times in a row. There's no unless you go something insane on the initiative cost, like they can always press these buttons a ton of times, and you have to take that into consideration, which you don't really have to with other professions. You're like, okay, this is a 25-second cooldown. It can do something crazy powerful. On Thief, you're just kind of like, well, it has to be, you know, it's a lot of more of a balance effort when working with Thief than with a lot of other professions. As we've seen with the Axe DPS numbers during the beta, maybe a little high.
Just a touch.
I would say Ellie's probably also, just because you need to do everything 4 times. Like that's just a lot more skills you need to make. Like when it's like a mesmer weapon, for example, you just need to make 5 ideas that are all good. But now Ellie, you need to do a lot more, especially when it comes to Weaver, because then that's like +6.
Exactly.
So just from like a sheer like hours perspective, like Ellie is definitely not easy to like get right.
That's interesting as well. So do you kind of divvy up classes between people, or do you just kind of all come together on a class and just kind of and think about the weapon skills? Like, how are you tasks in that? That's an interesting thing to think about, actually. Something not for, but
We do a lot of brainstorming as a team, like initially, and then kind of separate them out to different people.
okay.
Yeah, essentially there's a design owner for each. For in this case, each new weapon has its own owner, and you know there's multiple. Like Taylor and I and the rest of the team members have ownership of multiple weapons, for example. But there's essentially a main designer on any of these things, and that's true for like elite specs in the past as well. Obviously, the whole team gives input, and you know we get input from a lot of people internally. We have playtests that include basically everyone who wants to. It's not limited just to the design team, and they can all give feedback and all that stuff. We basically have one person kind of driving the design for the weapon and taking in the input, taking in the feedback, and figuring out what the right direction is and what the final product is supposed to be and what it's supposed to look like. And then, you know, there's essentially, you know, different development milestones where we'll come in together and review, and the team will give more detailed feedback and say, hey, this looks great, this needs to change. This is ready for beta, you know, that type of thing. And then, you know, it's just a very iterative process. And you see, even after the beta, we have more work to do. So there's never a point where, you know, it's really done. It's just
yeah, absolutely.
always room for improvement for the most part.
Yeah, because you just balancing, it just continues for the years, right? You're just always reiterating and changing and adjusting, not even just for the meta or and things like that, but also for gaming in general and what people want and need. Like that must be very hard. is the word I'm going to choose to use.
So I won't complain.
But yeah, that's really awesome. Roy, you didn't say what you think is the easiest or maybe hardest profession to maybe design for.
Just because none of them are hard for me.
Just so easy.
Natural
Yeah.
talent.
I mean, after you conquered Herald, you went on to Weaver single-handedly.
No, I would never touch an Ellie class. It's Cal's
Oh.
it's his favorite spec.
Oh,
After
okay.
Warrior and then G
Wow.
and the other ones. But
And
Yeah, I think I've been
also
called.
with Beef.
I've been called a main for every profession in the game, so that's probably true.
That's fair.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
fair.
Hey, you gotta love the children equally.
Yeah, I
Maybe
don't
not
know.
Thief.
I don't know that I would necessarily say that like one. I think, you know, what Cal said about Thief and what Taylor said about Ellie's. I mean, those are pretty much thoughts that I would echo.
Easiest then, maybe? Do you think sometimes it's just easy to pick up? Like, you know, I think Trig said like the weapons where it's like 5 skills. It's a bit.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a bit quicker. Maybe.
I mean, this is not necessarily like a personal thing for me, but I think just like looking at the QR2 weapons, I think you know, Warrior Staff, like we had a pretty clear sort of design idea. Like we knew we wanted staff like stood out pretty hard. We knew we wanted it to be some sort of a support archetype. And so, you know, a lot of the skills were going to be support oriented. You're not going to have huge damages. Not going to be big AoE damage type skills or something. So I think specifically like the QR2 weapons, like Warrior definitely seemed like a sort of an easier sort of avenue a little bit. And, you know, of course we had to end up tweaking it. But that's, I think, less of a flaw in design and more of just like a balancing thing, which is going to happen no matter what. So, you know, I would probably look at that as one of like the sort of easier weapons to think about from the design and like brainstorming and planning phase.
Cool. Okay.
I know as a player looking at the Staff Warrior, because you really only have to interact with Adrenaline, there was no like separate mechanic that was on like the maces for Ranger or even like the Elementalist bullets. Sometimes that simplicity I really appreciated, just the satisfaction of having that vacancy of a support role for Warrior filled, and I think it really knocked it out of the park, just on the first initial beta.
Yeah, it's kind of like what Taylor mentioned before, where specifically because it's a support weapon, as long as it has the tools to support allies, that's, a lot of the rest of the support is going to come potentially through traits or utility skills and stuff. And so it doesn't necessarily need some sort of overarching mechanic to it. And yeah, you've got the burst skills, so you got the burst abilities, you got the primal burst on Berserker and whatnot. So yeah, I think it makes a little bit more sense to kind of keep it a little simpler. There's obviously some pretty cool skills on the staff, regardless. It's definitely one of my favorite weapons. I think of the QR2 weapons in general, and I also think support warriors are pretty interesting and exciting build in general. So yeah, I think it makes sense.
Nice. Anyone else want to add to that, or we good to move on? We're good. Criv, do you want to ask your question about the hammer and Ranger?
I think considering our topic that we were talking about, I want to jump to another question.
Sure.
So we were talking about, the concepting, getting everything in place to then launch into a beta, and then to have us players interact with these new tools, such as like the new weapons. So how did the beta go from the team's perspective, and with all of our feedback in mind, how influential was that player feedback in course correcting, changing, giving some tune-ups to these set of weapons that we're going to be getting soon?
Sorry, go ahead, Roy.
You can take it if you want.
Sure. I'll just take anything that no one else wants to answer. So that's why I'm here. I'm pretty sure.
Sure. I'll just say I think it was really useful. We always talk about this on the streams, right? We're always looking for feedback. That's literally the reason we started doing the streams, right? Was because we wanted to get the notes out earlier. We wanted to get them in front of the players. We have, like Cal mentioned, a lot of internal playtests, and we get feedback from a lot of different people at the company. But at the end of the day, nothing's going to really be able to replace feedback that I think the entire player base is going to be able to give. And so that was one of the big goals we had in doing the balance streams, doing the preview streams, and obviously eventually doing the showing off the new weapons, and then doing the beta for them. So obviously it was very, very beneficial, very, very helpful feedback. We just showed off some of the adjustments we made to them today. Taylor did a great blog post on Wednesday, writing up a lot of the sort of thoughts and ideas behind the updates we were doing to them, a lot of the feedback that we gathered and collected from the beta and whatnot. So yeah, I would always just say it's really, really useful. It's really, really helpful. Anytime we're able to do something like that, and we definitely we take it very seriously. We look at all the feedback that we're getting from it. I think we did a good job iterating on them. The responses that we've been seeing have been pretty positive, which is great to see. We're certainly not going to abandon the weapons. It's not like they're going to get released and then we never touch them again. I don't, that wouldn't be an expectation that I think anyone would have. So there's always going to be more room for iteration and updates. But the feedback we got was really useful. We were able to iterate on it, and I think we did a pretty good job with that. And now, Cal, I'm sure you can add some.
I could if you want. I don't know how long we're going to be. Maybe time limited.
I think the beta, it went pretty well, especially all the feedback. It was really helpful. We looked at a variety of different sources, like our own official forums, community discords. The Reddit had a bunch of different threads. I spent about a couple days, just all I did was look at all those threads, write them down, compile for the team so we could read feedback. A lot of it was, stuff that we had an inkling of idea might be an issue, but we just wanted it confirmed from the beta going in. And so when it was resounding feedback, we're like, okay, it needs to change. Or if nobody mentioned it, then we're like, wow, it wasn't actually a problem. And then obviously a lot of things people, new things we didn't catch. So that's, why it's really important. Definitely listening to everything. There were a lot of things that we feel like the weapons need more time in people's hands before we're ready to change. The beta was pretty short, especially for competitive modes. When things are constantly evolving, we want to make sure those weapons have time to actually get learned and used before we make snap judgments on how to change them. So that's pretty important, and goes into what Roy is saying, that we're not just dropping these and leaving them. It's a live service game. We are planning on keeping an eye on them and changing them. We want them to be used. And so if they're not good, if more problems come up, we definitely will be, acting upon that.
Yeah, there's as much a part of the balance ecosystem as any other weapon or skill or profession.
Yeah.
Now you're raring to go, I can tell. You want to add to this? Did you want to add to this now? You can add if you want. I thought you wanted to talk. Sorry.
No, I don't know if I have that much more to add. I guess.
Okay, if you want to, you don't have to.
I think betas are, as obviously this beta specifically was useful, but just in general, like the idea of leveraging a beta to gather this feedback is just like it's so valuable. Just because, I mean, if you think about it in terms of like raw man hours of like, hey, internally we playtested this much, but then when the entire player base is playing it for like a week straight, that just like immediately dwarfs all of our internal testing.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, like, we have a lot of people internally that really know the game well, and we get a lot of the, like, you guys should see some of the early versions of the stuff that didn't make it to beta.
Oh, really? Can you say? Can you give us an example? Just like a cheeky.
But realistically, it's like we can only do so much testing internally, so there's always going to be things, for the most part, that slip through the cracks, and that's where the betas really come into play. Where it's so valuable to just get tons more eyes looking at it for a significantly larger chunk of time as well, and we're able to leverage that and then iterate on things before they're officially, I mean, they're in the game, but officially released to the player base. And then the initial release can be so much smoother with that feedback backing us.
Okay, cool. Griff had a great question, something I forgot about actually, with the...
Did I?
Untamed. Well, you're talking about the Hammer Ranger.
Oh, yeah.
And you were talking about the skills and being able to switch different skills in and out. Is that something that you're looking to do maybe in the future? Like expand with weapons in the future? Or is it just kind of like that's kind of cool, but it's a lot of work? Or...
I think the answer is probably no. Untamed Hammer was just a special exception because all of the weapons were designed without weapon delinking in mind, right? So it had to work with the untamed mechanic, and then when you're a soul beast, now it has to work. So we were faced at a crossroads with a lot of different options. It was either we could like delete some skills and then merge them all, so the mechanic no longer existed, but we really didn't want to do that, so we had to find a way to make it work. But as for the concept of a skill variant, it's something where probably our design team isn't too keen on, much because we think visual clarity is important, and to see someone and look at their weapon, you need to know what skills they have equipped.
That's right.
And the hammer skills are different, but they're also really similar. But if it was like a warrior has a war horn on, and you don't know if they're going to support their allies or like fear you, that's really important. And so that is probably the main reason why we aren't keen, especially because if we want to make new skills for a new weapon, why don't we just make a new weapon instead of just piggybacking on the one we already have?
Solid. Really, really important, especially PvP. Well, imagine PvP is suddenly like, they're the fear is not there, but there's some other, exactly. Really, really good point. Okay. Good stuff. Thinking about like the weapons and different, no, I don't know if you can answer this question, but I'm going to ask anyway.
Good start.
I mean, I'm risking it. They said that I think we did this for it. Were there any other weapons that were, I know this part of the question maybe can't answer. Were there any other kind of weapon types that maybe were ever on the table for this beta, but like you were like, no, that doesn't fit, or that won't fit in the future? Well, you never say never. And maybe, tell us a little bit about why you maybe don't go with a specific weapon as well. Like, is it that it's just too hard to like maybe put that in, or it doesn't really fit with the class? Like, do you get to a point, you don't need to tell us specifically what weapons they are, but like, have you got to that point with some weapons where you've been like, no, scratch that, we'll just go with something else? Is that something that happens often, or do you normally concept things and that's it? You kind of go with that weapon and that's it.
I mean, there was definitely a lot of conversation around like which weapon should each profession get during like early development, and some of them felt a little bit more like a more natural fit, I guess, for lack of a better term. As for like why we chose one weapon over the other, most of the time there probably isn't a major reason. Like, why did we give Ellie a pistol instead of an axe, for example? If we want to do like this projectile condition damage based weapon, it could be thematically, it could be an axe, could be a pistol. I think we were like fairly interested in like the concept of elemental bullets. That could be something that could be adapted to like elemental axes. Sure, probably. But realistically, it's more about like, if there's a natural fit, great. But otherwise, it's more of like just the inspiration of the individual designer that's working on it as what they chose and what they wanted to really build, essentially.
Fair play. Do you think you would ever introduce new weapons into the game? Chris face. It's like if I don't ask that question and just if I get shot down, I'm good with that. You can shoot me down straight away.
We'll be answering that question on this podcast.
Okay. Sorry, guys. Well, there you go. I got shot down. I asked everyone. It's okay.
Immediately disassociates.
Fired. We're never doing this. We're never talking to devs ever again. And it was nice to see you all here. Goodbye.
See y'all later.
There was an effort.
It was.
Moving swiftly on.
It's just, I think because I'm like, I remember playing like a great axe in other games, and I'm just like, I really like that great axe. I know we've got weapons that look like great axes, so I'm good with that for now. That's okay. I'll do that for warrior stuff. It's fine. You had a good question here. The kind of
I did have a good question.
Do you want to go?
You can respond to this in kind and with fun. Now, during your concepting and internal testing, have you ever been responsible for any mad scientist moment where a design initially seemed fine, but then as soon as it went live, you said, "Oh no, it is not fine anymore"? And how does it feel knowing your brain is so big and so strong that you can enact that much change in a video game? Please answer accordingly. Contestant number 1, CMC.
That is in the doc as well, if you missed any of that.
That wasn't the doc, so I probably should have prepared a better answer. I'm like trying to think of one on the spot.
That's good. That works.
What was like the worst?
Or maybe like you brought something into the game and you're like, it's so much work to keep going with it, but like not necessarily like a bad thing. It just means like there's a lot more to it.
Not necessarily negative.
I guess in like
oh my gosh,
recent memory would be like when we reworked Ellie Scepter. We did like the mini rework to Ellie Scepter in November, and it was like November of 2022 or something. And then for like the next month it seemed fine, and like I was in Discords talking to people. They're like, "Hey, can you buff Ellie Scepter more? It's not good enough yet." And then it was like we're all on vacation on like winter break, and everyone starts pinging me in the Discord. They're like, "Fresh Air Catalyst is broken, is ruining the game." And I'm like, okay, that was unfortunate timing for that to be discovered.
Unfortunate for some people, for others.
Fortunate for others, I guess. Yeah.
This even happened when we did the signet for Ellie. Like we changed the signet trait, and all of our internal feedback was, "This is still garbage. Like no one's gonna play Earth." And then it drops with no one says anything. No one says anything. It drops, and then it becomes the most broken build that everyone is complaining about, and we have to hot fix it before the monthly automated tournament.
Oh yeah.
Is there any like visceral like ego where you're like, "Oh my god, am I like, wow, I did that," or is it just like emergency mode? You're like, "Oh my gosh, we need to fix this immediately." Panic.
Do you mean? Do you feel good about making something overpowered? Is that the question?
Good. Personally, I'd be like, "I did that."
Amazing.
There's never any panic, but I mean, it always sucks when you make the game worse when you're trying to make the game better.
Like none of us want to make something that's broken. Like, right? We want it to be good and playable, but we don't want it to be like, everyone's using it. It's overpowered in the game, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, it also speaks to just the complexity of the game when even like it takes even our most hardcore players a decent chunk of time to figure out like, all right, based off this balance update, here's the new broken thing. A lot of the times it's not like immediately obvious, which is good. That means like we're basically doing our job. If it's not immediately obvious, then we've kind of got it
Always
close
happens
enough.
with Warrior.
You think? Yeah, it always happens with Warrior.
I think like with like Warrior, people, it's like always a stage where people are like, we change it, and they're like, this is still like whatever. Then people are like, oh, it's kind of good. Wait, this is really good. You guys need to nerf this. And the course is like 2 months. It happened with like Spellbreaker when we did Hammer, when we did Bladesworn buffs. Like it's every time.
So sometimes you have a complicated relationship with these professions where it's like the feedback is very hot and cold, and you're just like, what do we do?
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah,
good
but I
question.
think that's good. I think if the players are invested in their innovating to the point that they find like the stuff that's broken like way after the patch, that's just cool. That's just the game being played, right? And that's our job to go fix it. Once it's clearly obviously a problem, I guess we should fix it. But until then, it's fun to give powerful new tools. Like we're always trying to do something strong, but never something broken. And it's a very fine line. So sometimes and often we miss the mark because it is difficult.
You've only got so many people to test it as well. And then like, you know, people who are playing the game like very actively all the time, they just come up with this combination that, you know, inevitably, which you want people to do, right? You want people to theory craft and, you know, do things like, you know, use I was gonna say, what's the rune that Boots likes all the time? Mad Kings.
Yes.
And like just come up with
I was gonna say
ridiculous
the
builds.
Midnight King, but that's Epark.
Okay. But like, you know, things like that, which is important. And then suddenly, you know, this build comes out. It's not normally not always immediately, right? So it's, you know, it's just inevitable. I think that's part of you. I think sometimes the community find that maybe difficult to understand. And also there is like a significant process that goes into fixing things and how that gets put back into the game. Which is often very difficult to explain to people because as consumers you want it now, and that's the only thing that
development timelines don't exist. Why isn't this change on live yet? Just do it. It's ready. It takes 5 minutes.
Not like we perfect the build that's going out next patch, and then to us that's like really soon. Like it's the next patch, and to people that's like 2 weeks. That's an eternity.
Yeah.
But I mean that's understandable. Like that's not something that we really expect people to understand. It's not like a big deal that it's not something that's well understood. Like players interact with the game in a different way than designers do. And like it's easy to say this as like all of us here have been like in hardcore Guild Wars 2 players, like hardcore whatever. It's like serious Guild Wars 2 players before we all worked here. Like I was always just give me the next balance patch. I need to.
Oh, I remember your streams very well. So Cal,
I would rant about the balance team every once in a while.
Oh my
so
god! Every once in a while.
Okay, every stream, you know, whatever.
Well, but the thing is, Cal, you were always very respectful. That's what I remember. I'm pretty sure I remember you being pretty respectful. Cal, like, I'm pretty sure that must have been such a good thing to have on your on your resume, like your streams, because Cal would go through. If you don't know, this is old school Guild Wars 2 peeps. Like on Cal's streams, he would have the entire balance patch, and I swear would be just his own balance patch, right? Did you have that where you would make, you know, not new skills and stuff, but you'd always give your ideas and thoughts? I can't remember exactly because it was so long ago. But I just remember enjoying them.
It's actually crazy.
Really, it's so long ago.
It was like it was probably 10 years ago.
Yeah, definitely. I was definitely streaming this game 10 years ago. That's true.
Yeah.
I was going to middle school.
Okay. It's okay. We're here now. In different situations.
I was going to middle school and playing Guild Wars 2.
Wild.
Taylor probably as well.
Okay,
right?
me too. I started playing in 8th grade, so.
I played the betas and then the Head Start. I was day one, yeah.
Yeah, day one.
The Head Start was so fun. I think the betas were more fun.
The betas were.
I was always like running around Gandharan fields for hours. I was like theory crafting if I wanted to play Scepter LE or Dagger LE, and which one I liked more. And obviously it ended up being Dagger, which is good because it's way more fun. But
this is quite off topic, but I'm so sad that I never got to experience the alpha of Guild Wars 2. All the intricate changes, the text, the font was different. There were charge-up skills, which you actually have brought back with Guardian's Jurisdiction in a very interesting way, which I was so ecstatic about. But yeah, I'd if there was a time travel, I'd go back.
I would not go back 10 years ago. I'm good now. I'm better where I am now. I'm good with that.
I would just send like so many random bug reports during the beta. I'm like, why is my skill animation different underwater? It was like different timing because it cast way faster underwater version. Or like, why do I take falling damage when I have obsidian flesh on me? It doesn't make any sense.
Oh,
Couldn't possibly cause problems.
amazing. So Cal's been been involved with balance and design for a long, way longer than when.
Yeah, I'm sure those bug reports were taken very seriously.
Absolutely. They were like, Cal's here again. Like that goes to the top of the queue. We go. It's bang on. Well, I mean, you know, you're obviously pretty good at feedback and everything else because you got the job you got now.
Well,
so you know.
Jury's still out on that one. But,
You know, Ellie Scepter might have smudged your record a little bit, but you know what? Great job. You're doing great.
It's okay. It's normally people don't normally give each other too much crap on this podcast, but it's fine, I'm sure. So here's a good easy question. It is actually it should be easy. It's your own personal taste. What do you think is your favorite new weapon addition to one of the classes? What's your favorite weapon? And maybe you're biased because you're like, you know, you were on a specific one, but what's your favorite one, or what do you think maybe brings in some new kind of gameplay or mechanics, or, you know, even if it's just a skill specifically on one of the weapons? Like, what's your favorite?
Trig, I wonder what you're gonna answer.
Just, I wonder if it maybe. Okay, I will say Ranger Maces because I made them and they're really fun, but also like Ellie Pistol's a really close second. Like I think Ellie Pistol is gonna be like super fun, especially like Weaver. Like I'm really excited to see like what like the people that are actually smart do with like Weaver Pistol, and they figure out like the correct rotations and everything.
What did you say? That people that are actually smart.
We can make our best guesses.
I love that. That was
we can
great.
make our best guesses like, oh, if you do this and this and it's more damage, but like they have like the flow charts, the Excel spreadsheets.
Oh, you're talking
I'm
about
ready.
they go that extra mile, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I see. But I mean, you can still say why you like the Ranger Maces. Like,
I
loves
like
getting
that
larger.
all the skills. I think they flow well together.
Yeah.
I like
You
the
get to
theming as well.
grow big.
You get to grow
Yeah.
big.
The
grow
wild
big.
is back.
It's a natural growth hormone.
Absolutely. Good stuff.
Wait, where did she
I
check
need
for
to
that
figure
guy?
out what those Ranger Maces are doing. Yeah.
Skill name should have been GMO.
Excellent. Roy?
I really like Ellie Pistol because all of the skill names are alliteration, and I'm a fan of that.
They are now.
I really like Necro Swords because Gormandize is a really fun word to say,
Mm.
and we got to joke about that a lot on the stream that we showed them
Awesome.
off.
That was a good time.
I honestly kind of think I mean I kind of said this a little before, probably Warrior Staff, just because I mean I mostly play like support builds a lot of the time in the game, and like I said, I think support warrior is a pretty interesting build. I think Staff's going to potentially enable it a little bit. I think staff, like before I started working here, I thought like the idea of a warrior using a staff was kind of interesting. So that's cool to see that it actually is happening. And I think it has a pretty fun kit. I do kind of like the more simplistic nature, kind of like what Krupp was saying earlier. I'm a fan of simple things. And so yeah, I would probably lean towards that. Just in general, I mean, this is a bit of a cop-out answer. I do like a lot of the weapons. I think they're all pretty interesting in their own way. I don't honestly know that I'm going to be using a ton of them all the time because I don't know. I mean, I mostly play Herald in PvP, and obviously that's not going to run Scepter, and I mostly play Guardian in World versus World, and that's not going to run pistols. I mean, for support.
Oh, wow.
I think DPS Guardian might run it, and that's sick. But
Yeah.
I'm mostly locked into support jail, so.
Break free. We believe
Yeah.
in you.
There you go, break free.
But yeah,
That's right.
I'll go with Warrior Staff. I think it's a cool kit. I like the design of it. It feels good to play. So
Nice. Cal?
Well, I guess everyone said Ellie Pistol, so I can't say Ellie
You can
Pistol.
say
I mean,
Or
you can
can.
say Ellie Pistol.
Say it.
I don't know. I think it's kind of
the
cool.
opposite of the players.
It becomes a huge mess with Weaver, which is fun. Like it's just like, what's even happening here? I think Thief Axe also is one of the ones I like. We got the thieves to press more than one button for their DPS rotation, so I'm pretty happy.
It's a big victory. I'm going to be honest. I was the most surprised. I was not really expecting to enjoy Elementalist Pistol and Necro Sword as much as I ended up enjoying. And of course, I'm absolutely in love with what you've done with the Warrior Staff. But something about LE pistols, I'm really interested to see the additional animations and casting effects. And I know that I'm not a smart player, so I didn't even touch Weaver. I knew my place. I was like, I'm not going to go down that road.
Okay, I don't even know what that class does.
I was like,
No one
you know
does.
what? I go on Weaver, I just press buttons.
There's
I'm
a
like,
lot more buttons than
I'm
other
doing
classes. That's all I
something,
know.
yay.
Although I play engineers, so it's not a million miles
But-
away.
Yeah, and then something about Necro Sword. I don't know if it was the projectile and the coloring and the naming conventions of Gormandize. It just really sold me on the fantasy as well, which I really look for in things in games like classes and talents and weapons and all that stuff. So those were my top three, with unexpectedly Elementalist and Necro for myself.
I think Necro's pretty cool in general too. It seems different than a lot of the other Necro weapons without being like not the Necro feel, which is pretty cool. I could see those weapons becoming good in a couple different modes, and I'm excited to see them being played. It's got a leap on it. That's crazy.
I know, that's wild.
It is wild.
In a dark field,
Well, I do love dark fields. Dark
Yeah.
auras are really cool.
They are. That was a good change. It really just helped balance out, a light aura. We had to have a dark aura.
Yeah, exactly.
Roy, if I had asked you what a dark aura was a month ago, would you have known?
I would have told you you're making that up. It's not something that's in the game.
Aha! Excellent. Your face. Says it all and just writes like, wave on.
Jebro, what's your
Taylor-
favorite?
Yeah, I was gonna
Taylor,
say.
Roy, and I have a chat internally, like on our internal.
Oh, we're not going to talk about that.
We won't talk a whole lot about it, but there's a lot of shenanigans. We'll just
May I
leave it at that.
Amazing.
well, you left us with nothing, and now I'm hungry.
You normally have 3 strikes in your route, but this is a pretty bad one.
I would
You
like
don't
to
know what dark aura
Gormandize
is?
on that information.
Yeah, maybe you can share it with us afterwards. We're under NDA, so it's fine. Mine, I just tried Engineer Shortbow like a lot, and it was, I did enjoy it. Like, I know what everyone was saying, it's very valid, and I do prefer it now, but it was just cool to see the different effects I could come up with, and just imagining myself in raids and different situations, and I'm like, the base damage wasn't too bad. I was just running around ore, like just panking, like just getting a ton of mobs together, and I was like, I am literally invincible. Like, I've got this short bow, I am invincible, I can get all the fields up, and then I can switch into like a grenade kit, and I'm good. So I just played that with like quickness DPS scrapper. That's what I did, and it was so fun. It was I didn't try much else. I did try, we tried everything on one of the streams we did for Lightbringers, but I didn't get to try too many other things because I was just on engineer the whole time. And I think one of the things I like a lot about the beta is I get to design like a ton of new characters, and so the wardrobe stuff took way too long. So there was also that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Angie Sharpo should have definitely been on someone's list here. I mean, I should have put it on my list because, like, usability problems aside, like the things that we fixed up for release, I think it is like, it's just a really creative design, and I think everyone was really excited about it internally. They're like, "This is
Really?
awesome!
Oh, that's
the way that
good.
you can play this weapon." And then there's some issues to fix, but I think we've kind of captured the same essence of the initial design.
Ooh,
just kind of,
Essence.
Nice.
You didn't even mean for
in
that
a
to be
way,
fun.
That was very good.
in a way that is a bit more fluid to play with.
Mm-hmm.
I think the original idea for NG Shortbow was really interesting.
I like it.
And like the mechanic behind it. It just it didn't quite land where it needed to be.
Another time.
And sure. And so I think now,
I like that one.
like Cal said, a lot of usability improvements went into it. It definitely feels a lot better. It definitely seems like a much stronger choice in general. I'm excited to see how it goes. I'm excited to see it get played. But yeah, I mean, in general, even with all of the sort of negativity, not necessarily negativity, but negative feedback around it from the beta, I think it was still something that was had a very strong, interesting mechanic, as its base.
Absolutely. So. Do you think Engineer probably had the most changes you had to adjust for?
Yeah, I would say so.
You'd say so. Okay. Pretty easy question to answer there.
Yep.
I didn't even need to write that down.
I'm excited to give it another try once it goes live.
I'm having a look through chat as well. So if we have any questions there, there was a general.
Someone in chat asked to see Taylor's dog. Maybe we can make.
Oh yeah, there you go.
You have a dog?
He does.
Not today.
Oh no!
Sorry, chat. We get no dog.
Can't disturb
the only reason
No
Cal
dog
and I
on
hang out with
stream.
Taylor is because we like seeing his dog. So.
I mean,
why we let
pets
him on
are a
the
good
streams.
reason to have friends. To be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, Taylor has a cat.
I've got a cat, but she's
True.
chilling behind me.
I've seen the tweets.
I have
She
a cat
is-
too.
Oh, she is
Yeah.
beautiful. She's sitting right now. You can't probably see her because she mixes into the sofa, but
Yeah.
she's very cute. Creature as well. You know that name. Gotta
Why
love
does
it.
that sound
I
so
like-
familiar?
I like Cinder a little more. I think you were considering Cinder, right?
It was really close. Yeah, Cinder was there as
I
well.
like Cinder a little
Yeah.
more, but Creature's a good name. It's
Yeah,
good.
Cinder
Why
was
not
like,
a middle name? Why not a middle name?
Creature, Cinder, Unity.
I was gonna say
Maybe
Jebro,
not.
yeah.
It might be a bit long-winded. Or my surname, which I'm not saying. Okay.
Why not? Dox yourself.
Yeah, well, absolutely. But there were so many random questions in the chat. Like, you have an opportunity to ask some genuine, like, serious, awesome questions. And it's just like, come on
Don't
now.
do it against chat.
Questions are way
No,
better.
chat.
Come on. Normally you're
Yeah, we
so
don't
good
need
at this.
questions.
Keep it up.
There was something about in the balance patch, and when me and Crew were talking, which is okay. So this is a bit more balance patch
I like this
related.
last question.
What's that? Sorry.
I like the last question.
Which one?
So it was like, what can you spoil for us?
That's solid.
Nothing.
There's-
exactly what we showed on stream a
Yeah,
couple hours ago.
That's it.
Swung big.
Alacrity. We started to notice alacrity being pulled back and quickness being pulled back a
Yeah.
lot more. And I guess just a little bit more about those. I think you've talked about it a bit, but maybe a little bit more in depthly about, what is it about those boons that are good and maybe not so good for the game, and why you're maybe pulling back a little bit on those.
Yeah.
If
we
that's
talked
what
a
you feel
little-
like you're doing. Sorry.
I mean, we talked a little bit about this on the balance preview, so I'll just quickly kind of echo it, which is, I mean, it's just in competitive modes right now, right? We added alacrity to a bunch of classes last year, and we're just basically pulling back on that because we want to see a little bit less of that boon in competitive modes. Simple as.
Fair.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot more to really go into it there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, we were talking
competitive
about-
is a lot more tightly balanced with the numbers we put on things, and so when we put a cooldown on a skill, we want it to be that cooldown, not always 20% less. Alacrity, having some key sources, like it's still staying on Renegade and Chronomancer for, thematic reasons and everything. It was on them before, wasn't really problematic. But just when it becomes so widely available and easy being the really operative word there. You were playing a support build and, the support trait has it, or you don't need the trait that competes with it anyways. And that became a bigger problem where it really did, people using their skills more often than we liked resulted in a lot of downstream effects. And so removing alacrity has hopefully be a lot more healthier for the game mode.
There's some really
like it.
interesting questions coming up. Thank you for that, Trig.
I am primed with
Do you have a
some
couple?
final questions.
You can have go for it. Go for it.
So, final questions for our guests. So, before Soda launched, developers gave comments on what they were most excited for. And Roy, in quotation, Roy Marks, responded with
Oh yeah.
gathering nodes, period, question mark, question mark, question mark. So I ask, how has the reception been on said gathering nodes? And how do you think the gathering nodes feel?
I saw some confusion about some of the nodes, specifically in the Bastion of the Obscure. So there were some people confused about some of those nodes, I think. so that was the point. But yeah, overall, I if I could go back and change some of the nodes, I probably would. I feel like I could have spent more time on them. I wish I had spent more time on them. Unfortunately, there were like other things I had to do for the expansion, like achievements and nonsense like that. But really, I mostly wanted to just do nodes. And then nodes were taken away from me completely, so it's a little bit of a sore subject to be honest now.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm
wow.
so sorry to hear.
I am a
I didn't mean
therapist,
to-
so we
I
can
didn't-
talk about that if you
I
want.
might need that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to broach a sensitive topic.
It's okay. I knew what I was getting into coming on here.
Bringing up
Should
extreme
I
trauma.
do like a? Should I give you just like a PayPal transaction? I'm so sorry.
I don't think that would be appropriate.
You could just send
That's,
him some Oracle more in game. I mean,
No,
that might-
honestly, the serious answer is like it's just one of the first things I did when I started. I was somewhat like present in the community before I started working here, and so like when it was public that I had joined Arenanet, like I think there were some people like talking about what I would be doing, and so like one of the very first things I did was I put gathering nodes in. I think it was Giala Delve, and I mentioned this on one of a stream, and it just became a meme in the community that like I just was the gathering node guy, and so I put in some gathering nodes for Soto, and so then when the opportunity to say what we were excited about for Soto was, I took the chance to
amazing.
promote my love for gathering nodes. So.
Thank you.
There was a really solid question in the chat that I really want to ask, which is like, but it's a genuine one for our players from like maybe a request from you all, honestly, and I can probably even say maybe what they don't want. But this is from Fornax, who's also on the podcast, the Grind Herald. And they ask, you said player feedback has been vital, which is great to hear. Is there any advice you can give players when they leave feedback? Have you ever considered creating a standardized feedback form? That later our second bit you can answer maybe if you want to, but the more pertinent, the first bit is, what advice would you give players when they're trying to leave feedback?
I'd say for
Don't be a D word. That's my advice.
No, of
First,
course.
that's the first thing. But other than that,
I'd say for
Exactly.
feedback, it's important to say what exactly you feel like the issue is and not just be like, I don't like this, because that's not really helpful. But it's always to be like, I don't like how this feels. You don't need to like get into too specifics. I would say that a lot of part of our job on feedback is to like interpret it correctly. Our job is to like read what they say and then figure out the key points, what they actually mean in it. Just so when you're giving feedback, I would just say be as descriptive as possible of what you think is the problem. You don't have to be right. You don't have to be, using correct terms or anything. I would just say that the more you can tell us about what you perceive, the better.
Yeah, I think I don't really like you kind of said like standardized feedback. I don't know that I would even, maybe might just be a personal opinion. I don't know that I would even necessarily go that route. I don't really think there's such a thing as like bad feedback. Taylor said just saying I don't like this isn't, we're not going to be able to do a ton with it, but still knowing that players don't like something is, that is potentially something that's going to help us. It's really on us to take the feedback we're given and decide what to do with it. So any and all feedback I think is always going to be welcome. But yes, the more information that we get, the more sort of details we get, the more sort of explanation as to why you don't like something is always going to be helpful. But yeah, it is at the end of the day, we're going to take all the feedback we get, all the feedback we see, and then we will, do with it what we will.
someone just asked, where is the best place to put the feedback for you guys to see? I think it's probably the forums, right? Like, I mean, just gets directly to you. And you have those, maybe the class forums as well. Like, are those the places you go?
Yeah, the
I see.
profession sections on the forums we often read, and then like other community things, like the Reddit, for example, is super popular, and we do occasionally peruse that and everything. So putting your words there aren't getting lost. So I would say like the Reddit and the official forums are probably, at least for me, the two largest places I see feedback.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this on stream. We look at pretty much everywhere there could be feedback. There's a pretty good chance that we're looking at it at some point or another. Obviously, you know, whenever we do the balance preview streams and we have the posts on the forums, we're always looking at those posts a lot closer. You know, we're always going to be going to those posts, otherwise we wouldn't be posting them for feedback. But yeah, you know, we're everywhere. You know, not to be sinister or anything.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Please don't be everywhere.
Yeah.
I need some privacy.
We're everywhere. There's feedback and.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's fine then. That works. Okay.
Yeah.
There are some questions. I know that people have questions about World v World and balancing and what you think about the whole standing still, healing, then moving, and then kind of having that time. I think that's also been something that's happened in World v World for a significant amount of time. I don't think this is a recent thing, but I'm sure that's something that, you know, you can give feedback about in the forums. Yay. I don't know if you want to talk about World v World and PvP and where you think they're at in terms of balancing and what you generally want to look forward to doing in the future, or if you feel like it's in a spot where you like it but you're kind of adjusting things. Is there anything you want to kind of say about that for folks that, and you don't have to, it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, we've previewed a lot of big stuff on the most recent balance update, like, you know, some pretty big hits to like support Mesmer and support Scourge in World v World, and then like all the alacrity changes are hopefully going to have a pretty significant impact on what's going on in the game mode. So at this point, we're like looking ahead to that update and seeing like how that update impacts the game mode, and then we'll kind of reevaluate from there. And, you know, kind of similar in PvP where we're getting a pretty significant nerf to Condi Druid, which is one of the bigger outliers right now, and, you know, buffing up some stuff that might be underplayed right now. So, you know, realistically, we get a larger balance update together that we're hoping does cause some amount of meta shift, and then we'll just kind of see the results and see like how close were our changes. Are there things that missed the mark? Are there more nerfs that are needed, more buffs that are needed? And, you know, we always have like these intermediate patches too, where it's like, okay, something missed a little bit. We don't want to wait till the next major balance update to fix this. So we have like kind of like the small tuning update that we did in January, where it's just a lot of number changes and not a lot of mechanics changes, where we do, you know, we don't want things to stagnate. When there's problems, we want to make sure that we fix them in a timely fashion. So we will sneak changes in here and there to address problems as we need to.
Yeah, I think for World v World, we do recognize that the game mode has a lot of sustain and defensives in it, and this patch did take a pretty big swing in it, but we also, you know, it wasn't too long ago where we saw it was almost the other way around, where fights were very ranged heavy and then melee pushes ended like in the first push, where there was not enough sustain, and, you know, being a melee player felt really bad. And so we were all really trying to find the middle grounds where melee players do get to, you know, engage with the game and play it, but also not, you know, live forever.
Yeah, I think people, that is the same question. People are just answering. I think there was a kind of general answer there. They're bringing back things like alacrity is really going to help with that, folks in chat. If you're, maybe you're a bit late to the party, but that's kind of what they're talking about. I mean, when we were talking about it with Kroof as well, I'm talking about not necessarily quickness, but like alacrity in this. If your abilities come back more often, you're going to have more access to things. So putting that back is just sensible and makes sense. And also in terms of skill shotting in PvP, if that skill comes back a lot quicker, there's less risk. And I think, you know, having that risk there and making those skill shots more important is very, very key. And also it feels good. It feels good to dodge it, and it feels good to hit it as well. But there we go. Everyone in chat, thank you for your questions that you have thrown out. I do want to give these guys a bit of a break today because they have been working hard and they have done a lot of podcasting and been on here as well. And Kroof, if you have another question, we can maybe have one more before we go.
I have a final one for Taylor Triggs Brooks. Because you
Yes.
answered the same exact blog post as to what you were most excited for. And your response was, I'm gonna wear a really big wizard hat. Smiley face emoji. So I ask, have you in fact worn a really big wizard hat? And have
I
you ordered it through
did.
Amazon or Temu? And
Well, I was talking about
in
in game, like the wizard, the astral ward armor is a really big hat, and in fact, I was being really honest that I was actually really excited for that. When Soto dropped, the first thing I did was optimize how fast can I make this hat, and I don't have the stats to back this, but I'm gonna say I was world's first wizard hat.
That's pretty.
We can actually look that up, so I'll go pull that information later.
You can?
Like I logged on expansion day, hat speedrun. I knew what I was doing. I knew which masteries I needed. I was locked in.
You were
Amazing.
locked in. World first
Amazing.
wizard hat. You heard it here first, people.
Okay, can one of you tell us when is this all? When can people check out the proficiencies? And is there anything you want to kind of inform people about before we kind of head out? And then we'll do a little bit of an outro for you all as well. When's it coming?
Yeah, the weapons are coming with Cure 2, which is in just a week and a half or so, which is pretty exciting. That's when you get the new weapons. But yeah, I mean, like I said before, just the only thing is that just keep on giving us your feedback. We'll see it, we'll use it, we appreciate it, and of course, thank you to Jebro and crew for having us. It's been a pleasure.
Very welcome. Okay, we're pretty much done. If any of you have streamed, Roy, you've got a stream, do you want to tell anyone what the address is if you want them to check you out, follow, do all the things? You've got a stream, you've got Twitter as well, right? Have you all got those things?
Yeah, I don't stream that often, but I might be streaming. Actually, I will be streaming the monthly next week.
There you go.
So my monthly stream. I'm gonna go to monthly streams now.
Excellent.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe one day I'll start streaming again regularly. We'll see. But yeah, that's it's at my Twitch. Roy with 2
Twitch.tv.
underscores.
Awesome. Okay, I'll check that as a link in the description so everyone can go to it and follow it as well. CMC, you've got Cal's got a stream as well. Do you stream? When's the last time you streamed?
When's the next CMC?
Yeah.
When was the last one? I think it was like 3 years ago, maybe.
Oh, you did one 3 years ago.
This
4
would be
years
so
ago?
meta if you actually reacted to your own balance patch notes and
React content. I
yeah,
can do that.
that'd be
Okay.
real meta. I would subscribe.
Yeah.
I don't even have a sub button though. And,
Oh, it's
Oh,
okay.
I'll
You can
work
get
on it.
affiliate pretty easy. We'll get you there. Easy peasy.
Yeah, you would get.
probably not a whole lot of CMC streams, but maybe someday.
There are
Is
some
what-
Trig streams though.
Yeah?
Yeah, Trig does the New York Times crossword on stream.
Yeah,
Every once in a while.
Really?
When I feel like it, I turn on the stream, pretend to play Guild Wars, but I actually just
Guild
have
Wars.
the chat do a crossword with me.
Oh, okay.
Good time.
Wait.
What's
Pretty
your,
good time.
what's your
What
stream
time?
trick? What's the address?
Twitch.tv/Trig is awesome.
Wow.
Wait,
Yeah.
Trig is awesome.
Yeah, there's no schedule at all. It's just, when I feel like it.
Love
Yeah.
it. Just does what it says on the
Oh my
tin, that
God,
one.
you're right.
Trig is
Everyone,
awesome.
I queue up for a PvP game and then do a crossword, and then as soon as the game ends, people ask for the real game, and I have to put the crossword back on the stream.
And full on 3-hour streams. Oh my god. We have a streamer in chat.
I love it.
Period.
I love it.
Taylor's actually a streamer.
My gosh.
And CMC,
Wow.
if people do want to catch you and chuck a follow on you, just in case you do stream, where can people find you?
I guess you can find me at CMCGW2.
There you go. Do any of you have a Twitter you want people to follow you on? Probably not.
At Guild
No,
Wars.
I don't know.
I
At Guild Wars
I don't
too.
ever.
There you go.
I don't ever tweet. My Twitter.
Add
yeah,
Guild Wars too.
At Guild Wars too.
At
I have a
Guild
Twitter, but I don't really have
At
to tweet on it.
Croucharoo.
Just to follow people. That's
Croucharoo. Do that one as well.
Croucharoo.
That works.
That's the only streaming.
That works.
No.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Really appreciate you here, being here as well. It's the first podcast we've done which we've actually interviewed developers from Arenanet. So I really appreciate the opportunity as well. If you do want to catch this podcast on a VOD, youtube.com/JebroUnity. This is for the live people. It's on Spotify. It's going to be on all the things. It'll be uploaded over the weekend. So if you do want to watch it again or listen again, you can do that. And if you're watching this and you're like, why are you telling me this? Because you can go and listen to it on Spotify if you're like on the way to work or something and you're in the car, because it's audio as well. Wicked. or anchor.fm/JebroUni, or Google the Lightbringers Guild Wars 2 podcast. Massively appreciate it. Thank you. Give us some feedback as well. Would you like to see future guests from Arenanet if they don't hate me after this interview? That would be awesome. Who would you like to see? What would you like? What kind of content from the game? Which developers
I think
maybe
we've
as well?
given worse interviews before, so
Oh, you
you'll be
have?
fine.
Okay, good stuff. Well, I'm glad that it hasn't
There
been
was
the
one
worst
time where I was
experience.
just roasting Roy on a live stream for like 2 hours.
Wait.
I think that's
That's
every
just the
on.
public
Isn't
live
that
stream.
Yeah, no,
like
that's-
the
that's
Guild Wars
every
2 channel? Yeah, I was gonna say.
There's I've roasted by Josh. I've roasted by Cal on when we used to do like tea times or something.
You've got a good crew. You've got a good crew going over there, Arenanet. We appreciate the humor. Believe it was really good stream today. Thank you for your work and effort.
And you can find me at the cross of 5th Avenue and 4th Way.
I was gonna say, Kroof, tell us where you are. Where can people find you before we leave?
I don't have a Twitch. I don't have a YouTube. I just
Kroof
pop in.
_ for Twitter. Kroof
I
on
mean,
Twitch.
if you want
Kroof
to.
on YouTube. Right?
I don't do anything. I don't
Jebro
know,
Unity
man.
on Twitch for me. We will see you next time. Thanks so much for watching. Take care and have a good one. Enjoy the weapon proficiencies that are coming soon. Quarter 2, go. You gotta do it. Gotta play it. Gotta catch them all that stuff. Bye bye for now.